So in this submodule, let's talk about Excel table rules. Now I call these rules the rules for me, but they're really more guidelines to help us remember how to use Excel tables most effectively. There's three big ones. First thing you do, change that Excel table name. So don't keep it as table 1 or table 2 or table 3. It's going to get very confusing very quick. And when you do that, it goes against our principle of semantic coding because we don't really know what table 1 or table 2 stands for. If you can't think of anything, use data, database, raw data, backend data. Use the name of the person who sent it to you. Just put something in there that's more reasonable than just table. Second, keep the column names reasonable. Now, I wrote reasonable here instead of doing specific guidelines because it's worth thinking through what they should be. Don't make them overly long because you're going to have to use them in your formulas, but you should keep them descriptive. And most importantly, you should not repeat them unless you have a good reason to do so. Finally, you need to keep the formats in check, so you don't have to go like I do and strip the table format of everything. Some people don't like doing that because it makes it very unclear where the table ends, and that's a respectable point. But you do need to keep the formats in check, and this isn't just my advice to you because I don't like excessive formatting. It's actually very important. Now, one thing that's not mentioned here is that Excel tables that have over 1 million records, but even ones that get up there in the 500,000 or 600,000 records, they can get slow. They can slow down your spreadsheet. In the lengths that we're dealing with them, it's not a big deal. But once you get into very large lengths, they can get very slow, especially because those calculations that you see that happens on the structured references, especially the ones in the table that happen very quickly, all of that is processed in memory. So if you're doing that on a lot of items, it can slow things down. Now, one thing that can help is to keep those formats in check because all that excessive format means that Excel needs to update those regions. And it needs to keep track of those formats. So you can get a little away with a little bit more by keeping your formats in check, especially because if Excel tables sit on the back end and they feed into a presentation, then really the presentation is the thing that needs to be formatted. It doesn't necessarily matter how your table looks on the back end. So just keep these three things in mind. First of all, change the name, keep those column names reasonable, and keep the formats in check and reasonable, and you'll be fine using Excel tables.